Ta-da! All right. Everything seems to be working okay, I hope. All right. Welcome once again to another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. As always, I am your host, Duck. Welcome, everybody. Uh, I don't know, is it just me or is the weather seeming to be taming suddenly? We're starting
It
to get,
is taming. It
yeah,
is
it's nice.
taming. Late September.
Yep. So we'll see what winter brings. All right.
Nothing,
What's that?
nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, exactly. What do they say in Connecticut? If you don't like the weather, wait a minute. Okay, here we go. All right. Welcome to another edition. This is number 23. And moving right along. Excuse me. Wait a minute. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. I got some things to cover. Um, I got coming up. I have a beginner's photo walk with Milford Photo. So if any of you know somebody who just got into photography, maybe they just got their first, big boys, big girls camera, and they need some help in getting started. Send them over to Milford Photo. I'll be running my beginner's photo walk and taking them through all the basics to get them started shooting, in manual mode. That's coming up September 6th. Saturday. Did I get
That's a
that right, or is
Saturday.
that a Sunday? I think I got it right.
6th is Saturday.
All right, okay, I did it right then. So Saturday morning, for a couple hours, we'll meet down at the Milford Duck Pond, and have some fun. I also have two workshops coming up that I am hosting in conjunction with the Professional Photographers Association. Uh, One of them, the first one is on Wednesday, September 10th. These are full day workshops. So it's from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. So people need to commit to these. The one on Wednesday is creating exploded views. If some of you have seen my portfolio, I know I've shown them off on here a couple of times where we take either a product or maybe even a food and kind of create an exploded view where you can see all the individual parts. So I'll be walking through my process of how to photograph that from picking out the view that's going to show off everything properly to disassembling it in a logical manner, using the different methods to photograph the individual parts, and finally how it all comes together in Photoshop. And then a few days later, on Sunday the 14th, another one. This one is more business oriented. This goes into discovering what your cost of doing business is and using that on pricing your work if you want to become a professional photographer or semi-professional photographer and you want to start charging for your work and you want to charge where you're actually making a profit and not just, a little petty side cash here or there. Okay. So if you know anybody who's interested in either one of these, send them over to the PPA website, or you can send them to my Facebook page. I have the events up on the events page, or send them over to PPA. These are 1 day workshops. They don't need to be a member of PPA to attend, but just realize that is, like I said, it's a full day workshop, and they're priced very, very reasonably for full day. I think it's like $99 for a full day. And then we got a couple of things coming down the road that we'll get to some other time. Okay. All right. So what I decided to do today is kind of piggyback off of things that have been mentioned in the past two sessions. And, previously, a couple sessions ago, we did the using blend modes to create like a double exposure. And then last week, we kind of expanded a little bit on that. And during both those, I mentioned that when you are in Photoshop, the order of your layers can wreak havoc if you're not, aware of where you are in your layer stack. So I figured today we'd cover some of the problems that would occur, and kind of that, even though there's no no hard rule to follow when it comes to a layer stack in Photoshop. There are guidelines, that you need to pay attention, and there are a few things that do matter as far as what's on top of what. So I figured we'd kind of get into that. And if anybody has any questions along the way, feel free to ask, okay? All right. And, I got an itchy back today. All right, so let's switch over to the desktop. There we go. All right. As you guys know, I typically start off in Lightroom. But you don't necessarily need to start in Lightroom when you're editing in Photoshop. But the thing is, I want to explain a couple of things here. Oh, you know what? Let's share so you guys can see the full screen here. There we go. Everybody see okay? All right. Expand that. All right. When we are editing in Lightroom, one of the things that I kind of like to explain to people is that you want to go from a global edit down to a local edit. All right. Meaning globally, you're going to do things like correcting for any exposure problems, looking at your horizons, make sure that they're nice and level. If you need to correct any uprights, you fix that. And then once you get all of your global edits done, then it's time to go into your local edits. All right. And typically, the way I'd like to explain it is more often than not, the global edits are basically designed to normalize an image. All right. Basically, correct for all the big issues in order to get it ready for your more artistic edits. And that's where the local edits come into play, because the local edits, that's where you use, masking to kind of like draw your attention to very specific areas. You're dealing with, creating some kind of color harmony, using color, looking out for the different textures, okay? Like I said, every time you edit, you're going to be editing one of three things. It's either going to be your lighting, your color, or your texture. Okay. And Lightroom is designed in a way where we really don't have to worry about what order we do things because everything is self-contained, and Lightroom has a way of organizing all the steps for us. So if we go out of sequence, it doesn't matter. Lightroom does it behind the scenes. We don't have to worry about it. So for example, if I make some uh, global changes, maybe I want to darken my highlights, open up my shadows, and then I decide, well, you know what? I want to add a mask. Okay, maybe a gradient mask here, and I'm going to invert that mask, and I want to maybe create a little bit of a vignette. Okay, I don't have to worry about certain things. Okay, uh, and then maybe I decide, you know what, I don't want that person in here. Okay, so I've done all these things to my exposure, I've done things to color, I've done things to texture, and then at the last minute I said, you know what, I want to get rid of that person. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come over here, I'm going to select my tool, and I'm just going to highlight around this person, and I want the AI to go ahead and remove the person. Okay. And once we do that, we can see that it did a really decent job, and it matched the exposure of where the person was with everything else. Okay. And if I go back and I say, you know what, now that the person's no longer there, I don't need that vignette mask that kind of drew attention to that person. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Okay. And it really doesn't affect that area. Okay. Looks like I need to update my adaptive profile. That's fine. Okay. And it corrects it. Okay. And makes it all blend in. Okay. So that's it. It's wonderful that the program does that for us. We don't have to worry about it. All right. We can now just concentrate on being creative with our images. Okay. So that's Lightroom. Okay. But as we understand, Lightroom does have its limitations, and there are times where we need to do additional work in Photoshop. Or maybe you're just not that happy with Lightroom and you prefer doing things in Photoshop, whatever the reason. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to, oh, we don't have any masks. I'm going to go ahead and bring this person back. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and update my adaptive profile. So anytime it modifies anything that affects the AI, any AI tool, the AI is going to ask you to update. Okay, so it doesn't do it automatically, unfortunately. Okay, so we're kind of back to where we were. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to launch Photoshop, and I'm going to right click, edit in, and I'm going to edit this in Adobe Photoshop. Okay. So when where's my photo? There's Photoshop there. Okay. And bam, we're loaded in. Okay. So here, we don't have the benefit of the software telling us what order certain things should be. All right. We have to kind of take care of that on our own. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing a lot of drinking because I am dehydrated from today's work. So, all right. So, let's say, we come in and I create a curves adjustment, and I said, well, what I want to do is I want to kind of add a little bit of a contrast curve. Oops, let's see, contrast curve. We're going to darken the shadows a little bit. We're going to maybe open up the highlights. All right. So you can see that kind of does, that does this nice little contrast because it's looking kind of flat. Add a little bit of contrast. Okay. And then maybe I said, you know what? The sky is looking a little bit bland. Let's see if we can get some color up into that area. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make a selection. Select, and I'm going to go ahead and select, and we can select sky. Okay, so we're going to select sky. Give it a second for the AI to do its magic, and then you can see it does a fairly decent selection. All right, once that's selected, I'm going to, and it looks like, hold on, let's zoom in here. It selected some stuff, so let me just go ahead and unselect some of this. All right. Oh, we got some selection up here. I'm just going to very quickly clean this up. All right. We got some craziness going on here. All right. Remember, your edits are only as good as your selections. All right, and it looks like it failed right along the roof line of this. Okay, that's good enough. All right. With the selection, I'm going to go ahead and add another curves adjustment. Okay. And with that, you can see that it's only affecting the sky. All right. So what I want to do is maybe I want to darken, actually create a little bit more contrast in the sky. And maybe I just want to blue it up a little bit. All right. So we're going to add a little bit of blue, maybe a little bit of blue in the dark areas. There we go. Okay. So we got a little bit of color. Okay. So we have a little bit of a contrast. Okay. And we have a little bit of color up in the sky. Okay. And then I said, you know what? I want to go ahead and add a little vignette on this person, kind of like what we did with Lightroom. All right. So what I'm going to do is create another curves adjustment. All right. We're keeping this fairly simple. All right. And I'm just going to kind of darken everything down. All right. And because we have a mask, all right, I'm going to select soft round brush. Okay. Get my brush. Where's my brush? Right there. Soft round brush. Make it a little bit larger. All right. And let's go up 100% opacity. All right. Black as my foreground color. I'm just going to do a little dab right where the person is. All right. And you can see I'm just going to dab a little bit in like a circle, right? And you can see that's what my mask looks like, all right? And if we toggle that on and off, all it's doing is it's causing a little bit of a vignette. Drop the opacity down to 50. I'm just going to go a little bit right along the edges. Okay, there we go. And I have a vignette, okay? And then now I zoom in. I said, well, you know what? Her pants may be a little bit dark. Her jacket may be a little bit light. Okay, I'm just kind of picking things to do right now. Okay, so we're going to take another curves adjustment. I'm going to open up some of the shadows in the pants. Okay. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that opens it up. Okay. I'm going to invert it. Control Command I to invert it. I'm going to get my soft round brush. This time we need to make it small. All right. We're going to go back up to 100% opacity. Make it small. And with white as my foreground color, all right, make sure you got white as your foreground. I'm just going to paint in a little bit on those pants right there. All right, you can see very quick, we just kind of lighten them up. Okay, get back to here. I'm going to create one more curve. All right, and this time we're going to darken, and I'm going to darken just the white. Okay, so I'm looking at the coat. We're just basically dropping it down. Maybe even just add a little bit of contrast to the coat. All right, again, select my mask. Control Command I to invert it. White as my foreground color on my brush, and I'm just going to paint that in. And oh wow, that's looking a little bit too dark. All right, so let's go back and maybe open that up just a bit. All right, before, after, before, after. Okay, so I said, okay, well, you know, I'm good here. All right. And then I said, okay, well, you know what? What I want to do is I want to clean up some of these spots on, let me zoom in. I want to clean up some of these spots on the sidewalk, on the grass, okay? I want to make it a little bit more cleaner. I didn't notice that before, so I'm going to go ahead and create a blank layer, okay? We're going to zoom in here. And all these nasty spots, I'm just going to get my healing brush tool. We'll make it simple. Oops, no, let's do spot healing. All right. And I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to clean some of these little ones up. All right. Make it so that the sidewalk doesn't look all nasty. Okay. That one looks okay. All right, now I'm happy. All right, I've done all this work, and maybe some of these spots back there, get rid of that. All right. All right, now it's looking pretty good. And I say, you know what? Maybe I want to go in and instead of being so contrasty, I wanna maybe brighten some stuff up, or maybe I want to darken some stuff up. Okay. And now all of a sudden, you're going to notice all these areas. Where are they? Oh. All right. All these areas where I did my spot removal, okay, all of a sudden, those are really starting to pop out. Okay. Oh. All right. Because one thing that I did not realize is that I wasn't paying attention to my order stack. Okay. The order of my stack. All right. So what I ended up doing is I made all these changes to my exposure. I added some contrast. I messed around with the sky. I added a vignette. Okay. And as soon as I went back and made a change, all of a sudden, all those spots that, oh, where is it? All those spots that I got rid of, all of a sudden, they don't match. They stick out like a sore thumb. Okay. This is very, very obvious if you do like face retouching and you get rid of a bunch of blemishes. If you don't have those in the right order, let me tell you, they stand out like a sore thumb. Okay. So what can we do? Well, the first thing we need to realize is that we have to pay attention to the order in which we apply our layers. Okay. And if we think about it, what we have at the base layer, our original image, is a pixel layer. Okay. It's a raster layer, meaning that it contains all the pixel information that creates our image. Okay. On top of that, we're going to be manipulating very specific parts of that image, except we usually don't manipulate the pixels on a pixel level. You know, we modify contrast, we modify exposure, all right? And what we're doing is we're changing the brightness of the pixels, okay? We're maybe modifying the color of the pixels, or we're modifying the contrast of the pixels. But we're not really doing a lot of change to the pixels themselves, all right? When we do, like when we start removing objects or adding objects, at that point, we are modifying the pixels in a way that we have to be cautious, right? So typically, the pixel layers will be towards the bottom of your stack, right? They'll be to the bottom of the stack, because everything else, all your modifications, all your adjustments are applied above your pixels. All right, I hope that makes sense. All right, so now we have, you know, all these things that we said we're going to remove that are now sitting on top of our adjustment layers. Okay, so we have, you know, where are we? Let's make this a little bit darker. All right. Let's see if we can make this. We'll make this like really obvious here, okay? All right. So we want to get rid of these spots. What should have happened is that all these corrections, all the spot corrections should be down, all right, because that is a pixel layer. That should be right above your pixel layer, all right, your main image, okay? So if we get rid of these, okay, we can see that here we did a correction, all right? But now we try to fix it, right? We try to fix it by putting it into the proper order, but we have a problem, all right? And we can see that occurring here and here specifically, all right? Because what happened was that when we did the spot healing, it's using the pixels around the area you're trying to remove, and it's sampling from those areas. Well, guess what? The area it sampled from was darker because we had an adjustment layer. So now all those pixels that were used to sample to cover it up have that darkened property kind of baked into it. So now when we move it down to the proper layer, all right, where it should be, we have the wrong pixels. So now in order to fix that, we have to go back and we say, oh man, I gotta, maybe find the eraser tool. I gotta erase these over here, this one over here, all right? And hopefully you catch everything that went wrong. Or you say, darn it, you know what? I got to scrap that whole layer and start all over fresh, okay? Now, for this example, it doesn't matter because I really didn't do a lot. But imagine spending, 15, 20, 30 minutes removing blemishes in somebody's face and then finding out that you have the layer stack in the wrong order. And now you have to go through that whole blemish removal process all over again in order to correct it. All right. So this is where being mindful of your order stack is important. Okay. So lesson number 1, if you are generating new pixels, okay, which is what we're doing here, all right? We're generating new pixels in order to cover up some old pixels, but we're generating new pixels. We're not really modifying, we're generating new ones, okay? What we're doing is we're just sampling from the area around in order to, remove these blemishes, okay? So every time you are generating new pixels, you want to be right above your image stack, okay? Typically, you want to do this kind of work early in your workflow, all right? And it's typically, when you're walking into an image to edit it, you're going to see stuff that needs to be gotten rid of right away anyway. So might as well take the time, take a few minutes, get your cleanup tool going, clean up all the pixels that you need to clean up, whatever it is, if it's faces and you got to remove blemishes, if you're doing landscape and you got to, get rid of a little bit of trash here, Maybe there's, a dead twig, or maybe through the woods you see a man-made structure that kind of distracts from everything. You just want to get rid of it. All right. You want to do that really early in your workflow because that puts it down low on your stack. Okay. So now I've gone and redid that. All right. And you can see right here, I have my blemishes. Here, let's rename this blemish. Okay. We have our blemish layer directly above our image layer. Okay. So now when I turn on all these enhancements, all right, all these adjustment layers, okay, we can see that it's affecting the new pixels that we created with the blemish layer and the image layer below it. Okay, makes sense? All right. All right. All right, so now let's say I want to do something with I want to do something and maybe add another person. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a selection. Okay. Generative fill. Okay. We are going to person walking. All right. Let's see what it does. We're going to generate. All right. We added another person walking here. Okay. Let's zoom in a little bit. Egads. 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 All right. Well, that's probably the best one of all. All right. Definitely looks AI, but we'll use it. Okay. All right. So here it is. We added another person. All right.
Hey Doc,
Yeah.
can I throw in a question here about this? Last week we were working with Alan's Eagles.
Correct.
So in that case, if you were really doing something like this and bringing in a person, would this be something you'd do at the beginning? Because you might run into some other. I know we spent a lot of time last week balancing those two images. Is that something that,
Right. Well, sometimes you have no real choice because there are times where you might have an afterthought. All right?
Right.
You're an hour into your editing and you say, you know what would be good here? Adding another person. Okay. Or with the eagle that we did, it says, you know what? I can't get the lower part of this eagle looking good the way I want. Let's just generate some foliage to cover up the bottom part. Okay? So that becomes part of the problem solving, but it happened later in the workflow. And it happens, we can't quite control how things are going to progress. All right. But we need to be mindful of what kind of problems that afterthought is going to create. Okay. So here it is. I generated this person and I wasn't paying attention to where my cursor was in that layer stack. And you can see here that I have my image layer, I have my blemish layer, then I had the curves adjustment, okay? And I must have had the curves adjustment selected because when I asked it to generate another person, it placed it directly above that curves adjustment. All right. And I'm like, oh man, that's not where I wanted it. I needed it down one. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and click that and drag it down, put it in the proper place, and look what happens. All right. All of a sudden, I can see that outline because I was not mindful of the layer stack. Okay. The other thing is, all right, I was not mindful of what is affecting the image above what I'm trying to insert. Okay. So it's created a problem that is now either I just put it up, I keep it above that curves adjustment and, never touch that curves adjustment. All right. Hopefully I don't need to touch that curves adjustment. But guess what? If I have to make, an adjustment to that and say, oh, you know what? I need to get back to my original contrast. Oh, it was darken the shadows, open the highlights a little bit. Okay. Well, guess what? It is now above that the pixels that I generated to create that person is now above that adjustment layer that controls my contrast. So now no matter what I do with that contrast curve, it'll never affect that person that I just generated because it's in the wrong place. Okay. And I can't fix it by putting it in the right place. Okay. Because the effect that was above it is already baked in. All right. So how do we fix this? Well, we can't fix it. But what we need to do is we need to be aware of this potential problem. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. Okay. And now we understand that I have a whole bunch of adjustment layers above. All right. All these curves adjustments, all of these curves adjustments are affecting everything below. So if I add anything below, if I generate anything below, it's going to generate with all those adjustments baked in. So if I need to generate something, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the top layer, shift click on the bottom of my adjustment stack, and I'm going to group it, Control G, Command G, and I'm going to deselect it. Okay, and I'm going to deselect it temporarily because now I can go ahead and get my selection tool. I'm going to create another selection. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and person walking. All right. Hit enter. It'll take a second to generate 3 instances. Okay. Using the Adobe AI. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, they look like they could be sisters. I kind of like that, but let's not. All right. I'm going to go with this one here. Okay. So now, all right, now we generated, let me zoom in here. All right. So we all see. We generated this with no adjustments to the image. None. okay? Because we toggled them off, all right? So now if I toggle all those back on, you can see that it's affecting everything, and it's not making it's not creating a problem because there's a mismatch. Okay, so all those layers above, all the adjustment layers, are doing what they're supposed to be doing and affecting all the pixel layers below. Okay, all right, so let's expand it. Actually, let's go ahead and ungroup this. All right, all right. Now if I decide to drag that up, okay, and let's make a drastic change. Okay, all right, that's the outcome we would get if we were in the wrong part of the stack. But because we are in the proper part of the stack, okay, we can toggle all those on and off, and it's not going to affect that layer. Okay, everybody follow? Okay. And that's just going to save you a lot of time and effort of having to go back and correct things. Okay.
Doc,
Yeah.
I got a little lost in there. I was trying to, the question when you were doing that generative,
Yep.
when you have one of the other layers selected, when you do it, so does it put it right on top of the selected layer? Is that the default for when you're doing those
Yes.
types of things?
So whatever layer you have selected, when you generate it, it's going to add it to the next layer up. It's going to put it right on top of that.
Okay.
Okay. So that's why you have to be mindful when you're generating something. Make sure you travel down to the bottom of your stack. You don't want to generate something up here. Okay. Actually, here I'll do it again just so you see what I mean. I'm going to add another person here, but this one I'm adding it to the very top. All right, I want you to look at my stack. I have all kinds of curves adjustments here. Okay, and I have the top curves adjustment selected. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and person. Oh. Person walking. All right. We'll make it different. Holding a dog. A small dog. Let's be clear. All right. I'll be holding this huge dog. All right. Hit enter. It's going to generate. All right. Now remember, I put this on top of all my stacks. Or all my adjustments, and I did not turn any of the adjustments off. Okay, so let's zoom in here. Number 1, number 2, number 3. Oh, that's cute. We'll do it number 3. Okay, she looks very fashionable compared to the other 2. Okay, so now I said, oh, okay, now that's looking great. And then I look over on my layer stack and I go, oh man, I did it again. I wasn't paying attention. All right. It's on top of all these curves adjustments. So now if I need to make a adjustment, okay, it's going to stand out like a sore thumb. So I'm going to bring it down. And you know what? And my curves adjustments aren't drastic enough. That's what it is. Actually, let's bring it down. I'm just going to create another curves adjustment just so you see. Okay. Oh, you know what? The difference was slight. It wasn't I got lucky on that one. Because you really can't see. All right, so okay, there we go. All right, we're gonna go to the top here. All right, I add another curves adjustment. I decide I want to darken things up. Okay, guess what? All right, all of a sudden they stand out. Okay, so now in order to fix that, I'm gonna have to take that curves adjustment and I'm gonna put it above everything else. All right. And then pretty soon your stack is going to look all mishmash because you got curves adjustments above pixel layers that are above curves adjustment that are above pixel layers. So you have to be very, very careful. All right. And actually, this woman here, the original one, is starting to really crumble here with all these curves adjustments. Okay. All right. Okay. Does that answer your question, Bry?
Yes.
Okay.
So the takeaway then is, or I guess a follow-up question, the uh, if you're doing something like this, like adding that woman, then you need to, is that why you group those layers so you could turn them off easily?
Yeah. So I grouped them so I can turn them off easily. I'd be able to generate the new layer, all right, and then turn them back on in order to get my edits back. Okay. Now, the one thing with generative AI, okay, that um, you anything that you generate, all right, you also have to be careful how you maintain that stack. All right, so uh, this is my original, right? This was the first person we added, and this is the second one we added, right? So in the layer stack, uh, let's move over here. Layer stack. This is the original. Okay. Above that is our first generation, and above that is our second generation. Okay. Everybody understands that, correct? Right. Okay. If for some reason I decided, you know what, this person here needs to move or whatever, all right, or if some reason the order gets shifted, okay, now all of a sudden what I want you to notice is that we have this crazy line, because now the first person that we added is now second in the layer stack, and the second person that we added is now first in the layer stack. All right, so we flip-flop those. All right, and the edge where they overlapped, because remember that second person we added, it's sampling everything around it, so it sampled from what was generated from person number one. Okay, so it sampled from here in order to create this. Make sense? Okay. And in order to blend it in, it just kind of blends it in. The minute we switch it out of order, that blend that the AI chose to sample now comes out of order. All right, and it's creating this craziness. Okay, The same thing will happen if for some reason we take our blemish stack and now we have a blemish correction that is above the person that we generated. Okay, so you have to maintain your order. Okay, so pay attention to that. All right. Now, in this case, it's not so bad, but imagine now if you had generated some people. On top of that, you created a blemish, a blemish layer to get rid of stuff, and then you decided to get rid of a person. All right. Now, anything within the confines of where that generated person was, if you did any blemish controls, any blemish removal, it's going to stand out because now you've taken the source that it's sampled out of the equation. All right. So be mindful of what you add, be mindful of what you remove. Make sense? Okay. All right. So typically, you want to keep all your generated pixels low. All right. If it helps to keep track of things, all right, you can just click the top, click on the bottom of what you want to group it together. All right. If there's a padlock on your background layer, all right, you're not going to be able to group it. You'll need to either unlock it or just deselect it and group everything above it. Okay. But I really don't like that. I'll just undo that lock, group that, and I'll just call that image. Okay. Or you may even just call it background. Okay. Now when I put everything above it, we're good to go. Okay. Make sense?
Suppose you wanted to change the size of them. No. Is that gonna distort everything too?
Okay, so yes, that's going to create a totally different issue. Okay, so now let's not even complicate it with size.
Okay,
Let's just say, you know, that woman with the dog, all right, she looks like she's trailing behind. All right, and I want to bring her a little bit closer to, you know, the other people. Well, this is what my mask looks like. Okay, that's what my mask looks like. Look how big that is. All right, in relation to her. All right, that mask goes like this, right? That mask is large. So now if I decide that I'm going to take her and let's say I want to bring her to be the leader of the pack, all right, what's going to happen is now everything that was generated in and around her is going to move with her, okay? And also the scale is going to be different because, well, she was further away from the camera. Now we're bringing her in front of the camera. All right, so now, well, you know, we need to scale her upward a little bit in order to make her fit the scale with everybody else. All right, and you can see that, well, that just opens up a whole can of worms because now I have to go into my mask, okay, and with black as my foreground color, I'm going to need to like really get very picky about my mask in order to make her blend in. Okay, so if you were scaling or if you're moving things around, all right, you're going to need to have a very clean selection of just your subject. Okay, because it creates all kinds of problems. All right. Now, uh, if there are any blemishes that was, any trash that was removed from that area, it's not going to matter because the blemish layer is below my person layer. All right, the person that I generated, the blemish layer is below. Okay, had that blemish layer been above, if I had gotten rid of any trash where her feet are and I move her from the back of the line to the front of the line, if there are any blemishes that were removed there, well, guess what? It would be very visible because now it's on top of the stack. All right. So be mindful of your stack when you're generating pixels. All right. Does that answer the question, Bob, for you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
kind it's kind of like what you're saying. Anytime I add anything on the top of it, uh, everything around is going to go with it. So therefore, you have to really be masked around and real close in order to move her
yeah,
without affecting the pixels below.
yeah.
Okay.
Now, like in the case with Alan's eagles, all right, both sources were his. They weren't generated.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can possibly be a little bit more careful with the selection. All right, and then once you have a good selection, you can basically move them around within the scene. Okay, and you'll be fine. When you're generating something, remember when we're generating something, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, here is my selection tool, my lasso tool. Okay, let me move this over. I want a person walking somewhere within this space. All right. So when I create a selection, I'm not creating a selection around an object. I'm creating a selection of where I would like the computer to place something. And I need to build in a certain amount of leeway into that selection. All right. Now, when it generates it, it's going to fill in that entire selection. Actually, it does even more. It actually creates an image, all right, that is slightly bigger, all right, and it uses the selection as a mask, all right. It uses the selection as a mask. And we see that, let me get rid of that. And we see that right here in this mask, right? Okay. So let's get rid of that mask for a second. All right. That's the image that it generated. Okay. That square. All right. But because I had made a kind of like a general round blobby mask, it used that mask, all right, when it generated the image, it used and applied that mask. So that's what I get. Now, if I want to refine this, I need to take a few minutes and refine my mask around that. But I don't need to, as long as that asset that I created doesn't move from that spot. All right, because it generated stuff around it. I don't care. I don't care. Matched it pretty decently. All right. I don't need to have that mask right to the person. I can get away with this. Okay. The minute I move her, then that becomes the issue. The minute I rescale her, that becomes the issue. All right. Make sense? All right.
And it doesn't take into effect when they build it the strength of the colors around it. There are a lot the density of colors of the generated parts are much
Yeah,
darker
because
than the
because
round.
it's sampling the area around it. It's going to match the surroundings to what's already there. Okay? And that's one of the reasons why you have to be careful, because if you have any layer that modifies the colors, okay? All right, so let's say, my greens are looking a little bit too green. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add a hue saturation layer. All right, and I want to take my greens and I want to make them a little bit brighter. Okay, all right, and a little bit light, a little bit darker. All right, maybe I want to shift my hue instead of that, bright green. Maybe I want to make it look more like autumn. All right, because there's no leaves on the trees, so maybe let's not make the grass look so green. All right, there we go. Okay, looks great. All right, the reason it looks great is because right now we applied that hue saturation layer above the pixel layer. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to hide these two. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I need a person walking. All right? Person walking. I can spell. Okay. And I go, oh man, I forgot to turn all those adjustment layers off. Okay. There's my person, blends right in with everything. And I said, all right, well, let's say I didn't catch the problem. All right. I says, okay, we added the boyfriend's walking with the girlfriend, everything's hunky dory. Let's say I give it to my client and the client says, well, the grass is looking a little bit brown. Can we make it a little bit green? Oh yeah, no problem. I got that layer right here. I just go ahead and dump it. Okay. Oh, hey, it did something I did not expect. All right. It actually sampled, I'll be damned.
Did a good
It
job.
sampled the green without the brown. Okay. Guess what? That used to be a problem. Here I am. I'm trying to warn you of the problem, and it's like, wait a minute. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. They probably fixed that. Holy cow, that's awesome. Okay. I got egg on my face. All right. But any hoot, you need to be cautious. All right. All right. Okay. All right. I think we kind of beat this one a little bit to death. All right. The other one we need to be concerned with is whenever we do anything with a blend. All right. When we do exposure blends, okay, All right, let's say I am going to create a color, solid color above all this. All right. Oh, I need it. Let's make it nice, warm color. Okay, and let's make sure that we get that above our stack. Okay. All right, we're gonna change this to a color. All right, and of course that looks horrendous, right? That looks horrendous. Let's bring the opacity down. All right. And we need to make a mask, okay? And let's say I just want to apply this color to the everything that's brick, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and on my image, I just want to make a selection using my blend if, okay? So blend if, let's bring that back in. Okay. Blend if, when you double click anywhere on the side, is going to open up this layer style. Okay. And it allows you to do all kinds of fun stuff like, you know, adding a stroke and drop shadows and things like that. Okay. But the blending options right here, it has blend if. The current layer, okay, my current layer is what? It's that color layer, okay? And the underlying layer is everything below that, okay? Although what we see is the pixel layer, right? We have to keep in mind that all those adjustment layers are on there as well. So what I want to do is I want to say everything that is dark pixels, I don't want to be influenced by this color. All right. So I'm going to take everything that is here in my dark pixels. Okay. And if I slide this slider over, you're going to see how we are removing that color, right? We're removing that color as the pixels get lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. All right. So all those heavy shadows, all right, we're just going to drag this into those heavy shadows, no longer has that yellow influence. Okay. And now we're seeing a little bit less up in the sky. Okay. So right now it's just kind of affecting the light bricks. Okay. Alter option, and we can split it. And what this does is this is just our edge transition, just softens the edges. All right. I want you to pay attention to the sky. All right. See how crunchy that looks? Let me zoom in. Oh, won't let me zoom in with this as well. This is open. All right. But see that sky? See how crunchy that looks? Those edges, all right? As soon as I Alt or Option and click these two apart, all right, you see that transition up here has smoothed out, okay? All right, so now we have, let's hit OK. So now we have that orange color just affecting the light pixels, okay, which is what we want, okay? All right. If I go down to my curves adjustment, all right, I have my color fill above my curves adjustment. If I make a change on that, notice how what is being affected changes. All right. You can notice it very much in the sky. When I make everything lighter, that orange color is everywhere. As soon as I bring it down, all right, see how it's not affecting the blue, but it's affecting the light clouds. All right. As soon as I make my image darker, all right, that orange color is just affecting just all those very, very light. Okay. So blend if layers, all right, are very, very dependent on the underlying layers. Okay. And blend if is designed to work with dark pixels and light pixels. Okay. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to take this orange color and I want it to apply just on the light colors. All right. Well, what are the light colors? All right. We can control what those light colors are with this curves adjustment. All right. And if, we have our curves adjustment one way and we go ahead and we tune this, we got our blend of the underlying layer looking the way we want. Okay. Hit okay. And then later on we say, okay, well, you know what? It's a little bit too dark. I need to, make it a little bit lighter. And it says, well, oh, look at that. I had such a nice sky up there. Now all of a sudden I got to go back to my blend if, and I got to bring that sky back in. All right. And fix what was just broken. All right. And now we're like, oh, well, the influence isn't as great. All right. And it starts creating all kinds of problems. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you really don't use the blend if all that much. It's a little bit more of an advanced technique, but I want you to be aware of it because those of you who do use it, this tends to be a problem. Okay.
Doc,
Yeah.
I was watching that sky about a minute before you mentioned it. I didn't think there was any blue up there at all. So was it the blend if? Is that how you brought that out? Is it part
Yes.
of that action? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So what, in this particular case, what is the blend if doing? Okay. Let's turn off that layer. Okay. We have a lot of blue in our sky. Okay.
Is that because you can see it or it's there? I mean, I don't see it in my from on this monitor.
It's subtle.
Okay,
it's
okay.
it's all right. It looks more blue gray than
Yes,
blue.
okay.
Okay. Now why? Because on this layer right here, actually let's rename that sky. Okay. We added blue, if you recall. I went to
okay.
the blue channel and we added that blue. All right. So that is the sky before. See how gray it is? All right. We added a little bit of blue. So it's a blue gray. All right. Here, I'll make it a little bit more or a little bit more obvious. Okay. That should definitely look blue to you now.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Now, we tinted the entire sky blue. All right. We tinted the sky and the clouds blue. Okay. Right. And I said, well, you know what? Part of the edit that I want to do is I want to kind of give it a early morning glow or maybe a sunset glow. All right. I want to enhance the warm tones. So I'm going to go ahead and add this orange color fill layer above everything. All right, and let's remove that. Okay, and I'm gonna make it 100% so you guys can see the actual effect. Okay, and it says, well, now we have a sky. All right, don't worry about the building. Let's just concentrate on sky. Now we have a sky that looks like it's on fire, right? And if we think about it, a sunrise or a sunset, what is being affected? Just the clouds, not the sky itself, right? Because the sun's not hitting the sky, the sun is hitting the clouds. All right, so the sky's still going to be blue. The effect of the sun hitting the clouds, the atmosphere, is going to tint it that orange. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the blend if, okay? All right. And if we really think about this, all right, we have areas of dark, all right, which would be our blue sky, and areas of light, which is our clouds. Clouds are white, right? So the light clouds we want to separate from the dark sky. All right. And what is our delimiter? What is our break point? When we are using a blend if, the break point is that, here, let me switch color, that 50% gray, okay? At 50%, okay? So we either want to preserve the lights or we want to preserve the darks, okay? In this case, we want to preserve the lights. So what does that mean? On the slider, we are not going to touch anything in the lights because we're going to preserve them. We're going to preserve the lights. We're not going to touch anything from 50% to the lights. Okay? That means all our manipulations are going to be to the darks. Hopefully that makes sense now. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that slider for the underlying layer because that's our image layer. Okay. We're going to take that and we're going to drag it in from dark towards that 50% gray. Okay. All right. There's about 50% gray. 128. All right. 128 is middle gray. Okay.
Huh? What? Pardon? Yeah.
So that means that everything from that 50% gray over is being preserved. Okay? Everything from, where's my, right? 50% over is being preserved. Okay? All right. Now we have that very raggedy, very crunchy edge. Okay, we don't want that. All right, so alter option, we're going to spread it apart, and what it does is it just softens the transition. All right, so from that 50% gray to the darker gray, all we're doing is we're saying we want a nice soft transition from one to the other. Just like with a mask, you go from black to white, it's going to create a hard line. But if we add shades of gray from black to shades of gray to white, it softens that transition. That's all we're doing. Okay. And now we see that the lighter parts of the clouds are being colored. Okay. Obviously, we don't want it that blazing. So what we're going to do is just bring the opacity down until we get, just that warm color that we want. Okay. Make sense? All right. Okay. Now, again, if we make a modification to that exposure below where we placed our blend if, it ruins the effect. All right. Everything that we just worked for is now destroyed. However, if we bring that below that, we retain it. So now I can modify this and it's not going to change what has been selected. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Now I targeted the warm tones. Let's create another solid color. This time we're just going to add some cool tones. Okay. Change the blend mode from normal to color. All right. That's looking a little bit too, there we go. All right. Add a blend if. What do we want to preserve? We want to preserve our darks. All right. So we're not going to touch this side. We're going to manipulate this side. These are our lights. These are our darks. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring those lights back. Okay. And we're going to, all right. Hit okay. And of course that's too much. Let's bring the blue down a little bit. There we go. Okay. And we've color toned our image. All right. Obviously, you know, you would need to refine it a little bit more, maybe use some masks. All right. Maybe you don't want the sidewalk color tone. You just want the buildings. Be selective about it. Okay. But now I can make changes to that exposure. All right. And it's not going to affect those blend ifs. All right. It's going to affect the overall global tonality, but it's not going to modify how the blend if interacts with the pixels. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? I know this one here is a little bit heavier duty. All right. So that's definitely more advanced. But
I have a question.
we need to
I've been
push you
saving them
guys
all for
forward.
night.
What's that?
So I noticed, well, about the sky, when you first started, it was pretty fiery red. You
Yes.
said a little too much. Now, but I noticed that when you were bringing it into shape, and even with this one here, that the bricks on the building sort of came along with it.
Yes.
So if I were doing something and I go, you know, I need that extra crunchy, saturated sky, but I want to keep the building kind of the way it is.
Yep.
Does that mean you got to math, or how would you tie those together?
All right. That you were just about ready to say it. You need a mask. Okay.
Yeah.
And it just so happens we have a mask for our sky. All right, right here. So we can take this. All right. Okay. This is actually a great question because it brings up another common problem with layer stacks. Okay. All right. Let me bring this up here. Okay. We have this curves adjustment. Okay. This curves adjustment we have labeled as sky. All right. And you can see that the mask is just for the sky. It's blackening out everything else. Okay. So anything that curves adjustment does is only applied to our sky. Makes sense, right? Okay. We can use that mask as many times as we want. If we want to copy it, we can just uh, uh, say, okay, well, here's blue, okay, and here's the blue for our shadow part, and here's the orange for our highlight part, okay. Both of these are going to be applied just to the sky. I don't want it affecting the building, okay. So what we can do is we can say, okay, well, this orange affects everything globally. All right. So I can click on that sky, Alt or Option, drag it up, and it's going to make a duplicate. All right. And now you can see that the bricks, all right, here it is. Toggle it on and off. The orange is no longer affecting the bricks. Okay, which is what we want. But the blue is still being affected. It's affecting everything. All right. So, well, what we can do is we can say, okay, I'm going to take that mask and bring it up. Okay. And copy it. Hunky dory. All right. Until we need to make a change to our mask. If for some reason, we add something, we remove something, we say, okay, I don't want it affecting, I don't want it affecting this tree. Okay, I want the blue and the orange to also affect that tree. That tree right now is being masked out. So now I got to go to this mask, which is for our gold, and I got to get rid of that tree. And then I got to go back to this mask, which is for our blue, and I got to get rid of that tree. Okay. I don't have to worry about the sky because that, it's doing what it's got to do. I just got to change these two. Okay. Well, that's a lot of hassle. So one thing that we could do, all right, is I'm going to go ahead and trash that one. We don't need it. And I'm going to trash that one. We don't need it. Delete. Okay. And we're going to group these two together. All right. Because both of those together affect the color of our sky. All right. It just so happens that one color does one part of the sky, the other color does the other part of the sky. But together, they are both our sky colors. So I'm going to shift, click, Control, Command G, group it. Let's go ahead and call that sky color. All right. Because that's, that's different from our sky exposure, right? Sky color. Okay. Now we can apply a mask to the group. Okay. All right. Then we can copy Control. Oh, no, not Control. Alt or Option, drag and apply it. Okay. And now I can go ahead and make a change to a single mask that gets applied to two effects. Okay, so let's go soft round brush, white as our foreground color, and we're going to go ahead and let's zoom in here. Actually, there we go. And we can go ahead and just get rid of that. Get rid of that. All right, just kind of, quick and dirty. Quick and dirty. Okay. And now that blue is affecting that mask. And, here we go. And that orange is affecting that mask. Okay. All right. Now, the reason being is that if we look at a pixel layer, let's open up our pixel layer. We open up our pixel layer, okay, and we look at the blend mode. We see that the blend mode says normal, okay, normal, meaning that what you see is what you get. All right. Every pixel on that layer is going to show through. All right. The next one up, the blemish. Okay. Also a normal layer. Okay. As soon as we create a group, all right, so we have a group of all our pixel layers here. As soon as we see a group, okay, you're going to notice that instead of saying normal, it's now saying pass through. Pass through. All right. The reason it says pass through is because you can have all kinds of stuff. Pixel layers, you can have adjustment layers, you can have color layers, you can have all kinds of stuff in a group. All right. And the pass through, it says whatever is in this group is going to pass through, you know, this collection of layers. It's going to allow everything to pass through, okay, except for whatever we apply mask to, okay. And that's what we're going to be doing with these two color layers. All right. So we took our blue and our gold, we put them together into a group. Okay. All right. The group says pass through right here, pass through, except for what's being masked out. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. So now that gives me a little bit of flexibility. I said, okay, well, you know what? I kind of want, maybe I want that orange color just on this part of the building, all right, on the front part. So with white as my foreground color, I can now create a larger brush. Oops, make sure you are on the mask. All right, and I can go ahead and, oh, that's looking a little ghastly. Okay. All right, so maybe not white. All right, I can use, all right, maybe I use 10% white. Okay, and I just kind of dial it in. There we go. Now that's looking better. All right, so before and after. Just a touch of warmth right on there. Okay. All right, so that allows all the effect, all the colors, the color effects to pass through that group except for what's being masked. Okay? All right. Finally, you have to be careful with any layers that you clip to a specific layer. All right. So for example, all right, we have let's bring, no, not her. Not her. Oh. Okay. Well, let's do him. Okay. All right. Let's say I don't like the color of his pants. All right. His pants are looking a little too teal. All right. And what I want to do is I want to make them look more like denim. All right. So I'm going to just, let's do a hue saturation layer. Okay. I'm going to get that color right there. All right. So I'm basically using this little hand symbol here. Okay. I'm going to click on that. All right. And I can use my saturation. All right. And maybe darken it up a little bit. Okay. That's looking pretty good. All right. And we're going to maybe shift that a little bit from the teal more towards the blue. Okay. That's probably a bad example because it's really not affecting anything else in the image. Okay. But you have to understand that this hue saturation layer that we created, all right, now sits on top of our guy, on top of all the blemishes that we corrected, and on top of our original image. Okay? But I only want it to affect this guy. All right? Actually, you know what? Let's make it a little bit more noticeable. We're going to go ahead and lighten him up, and we're going to desaturate him just so we see the effect. Okay, so we got rid of all the color. All right, but I only want to affect this guy. Okay, not anything else. All right, so I can do one of a couple of things. All right, I can create a mask. All right, I have a mask here. All right, Control I to invert it. Round brush. Let's go 100%. White as my foreground color, and we can desaturate him. All right, and do all that, right? Okay, but we already have a mask for him already. Okay, so here it is. I have a mask, and I'm taking another effect and creating pretty much the same mask, right? So why should I be doing all this effort? All right, so one of the easiest ways is to say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and pin that layer to the one below it because that's the only layer I want it to affect. Okay, so we have this clipping layer tool right here, this icon, okay, that we can just click. All right, and notice that it's only clipped to that layer below. Right, obviously it's clipping everything. All right, we would need to be a little bit, more creative with our mask, but that's the effect. It's not affecting anything else, just that layer. Okay. If I say, okay, well, you know what? I need to maybe change the contrast on him. Okay. So I'm going to create a curves adjustment to create a contrast. All right. We're going to maybe darken him and brighten the highlights. And it says, oh, well, now it's affecting everything. Okay. So we have to be careful of this layer stack. All right. Because now that curves adjustment, that new curves adjustment that we just created is affecting everything below it. All right. And we only want it to affect that one layer. All right. So again, we can select it and we can clip it. All right. So you can clip it just by clicking this. This is easy. The other way you can do it is if you press and hold the Alt or Option key, Alt for Windows, Option, and you hover the mouse in between the two layers, you'll notice that it changes the icon changes. All right, let's see if we can do this with. All right, see how it changes? Goes from the hand to that down arrow. All right, we click on that and it clips it. Okay, so now we have that layer clipped to the layer below. Okay, all right. You have to be careful with your layers, because now if for some reason I say, okay, well, this lady here, all right, needs to come down, and I inadvertently put it in the wrong spot, now all of a sudden she gets clipped in along with everything else to the layer below. Okay, and maybe that's not where I wanted her. I wanted her below it, whatever the case. All right, you have to be careful of where you move things. Okay, or not move things. Okay, in this case. All right, so that's clipping. All right, clipping is different than grouping. Okay, because you can see the colors are grouped together. All right, but it's affecting everything below it. All right, these are clipped together. All right, and it's only affecting the bottom of what is being clipped to. All right, so you can think of this kind of like a special type of group. Okay, where everything that is clipped, it's, you think of it like cascading down to just that layer. All right, hopefully that made sense. Question. Right, and of course, you can clean up your mask to make it look a little bit better. Black is my foreground color. Oops. Again, make sure you're on the mask. Oh. White is my foreground color. There we go. All right. And you'll, obviously, the better your mask, the better, or I'm sorry, the better your selection, the better your mask, the better your mask, the better your edit. All right, I'm just going to do this very loosely, very quickly. All right. All right. Questions?
You can't use select person.
You can. I'm just, I wasn't.
Okay. No, I'm just asking.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. So, there we go.
And where would that be in the stack? Where would you put that in the stack?
Okay, so I have this rough mask. All right, let's go ahead and zoom in here. And I say I want to clean it up. Okay, so what we're just gonna do is, let's see. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Okay. We're gonna mask. Okay. Any of these? No. Oh, let's see. There we go. So, your selection. All right. Your AI selection, your quick selection. Quick selection. Come on. Selection brush tool, object selection, or the magic wand tool. Any of those. Okay, select any of those. All right, and then come up to the top and you'll see select subject. Okay, with the little down arrow. All right, the down arrow. For better results, you'll just hit the cloud. All right, use the cloud, hit select subject, give it a second. It's going to select. Oh, it didn't do a very good job of selecting my subject. Okay. Huh. Let's try off the mask. Did a nice job with her, did a terrible job with him. Okay. Which just goes to tell you, sometimes these nice features just don't work. All right, let me turn these off and see if it'll do a better job. Hit OK. Oh, what the heck? That's not even correct here. All right, let's try a different tool. Let's try the object selection tool. All right. Well, not objects are. Let's do the selection. Okay, here we go. Let's see if this does a better job. Okay. Well, nope, didn't do a good job.
Hmm.
Okay, well, guess what?
Can't do it.
Photoshop sucks. That's not the selection that's not the selection you want. All right. I wonder. All right. I'm going to turn off the mask. Let's see if it does. Let's just add. Come on, add. Yeah. Not quite the best selection here. That's a terrible mask. I'm wondering if it's because it's AI generated, and it's still, all right, if you look at it, it's still the AI generated. That shouldn't matter. It should be able to navigate this selection process without problem. I don't know why it's having a problem. I guess it just wants to make me look bad. All right. All right, better selection. His face looks a little weird. Okay. Okay, now that we have our selection, we can go ahead and turn these back on and invert, control, shift, I, invert, brush, black, and we can clean up our mask. All right. So we have our mask. I inverted the mask, or we have our selection. I inverted the selection, otherwise I'd be painting the inside. Okay. Cleaned up everything around it that I needed to clean up. Control Command D to deselect. There we go. All right. And that's our person. And he's black and white. Okay. because we have these layers on top clipped. Okay. All right. What I normally do with these, just to prevent me breaking them apart or doing something stupid, I normally will create a regular group from that. All right. And then I'll just call it man. All right. Even though technically clipping it kind of creates its own little group. Like I said, it's kind of like a special type of group. I'll still group it together just so I don't screw it up. Okay. All right. I think I confused everybody enough. Okay. And these are all my edits. All right. Questions?
Brain fried.
Brain fried, yeah.
Mine is anyways.
Yeah.
Quite. I have to say though, Doug, that when you're doing the other thing, because when I mentioned the sky, because that's always been a problem for me to try and properly pull the blue out without making it look really wonky.
Oh, yeah. Um, Play around with the blend if. I tend to use it once I understood how it works. I tend to use it a lot more than I realize, because it just has a way of being able to blend things in a way that um, a layer, a blend layer doesn't. The darken multiply color by itself. Think of this as the global part of it. All right, what you want to do. All right, and the blend if. All right, the blend if, that is the kind of like the local adjustment. Okay, because you're localizing as to where you want to apply the effect to. All right, but instead of excuse me, instead of saying, okay, I'm going to apply it locally using a mask, and then you having to paint in the mask, you're saying, I want to locally apply this to a range of luminosity within the image. So everything from bright white to middle gray. I want bright white to middle gray to have this color. All right. So it's a way of being able to mask out based on luminosity rather than masking out based on a shape, which a regular mask would be. Okay. All right. So in this case, we're kind of using, if you want to think about it this way, what we're doing is, where's my zoom? We're using a shape mask to select our sky, and then within that sky, we have two additional masks, one for the shadows and one for the highlights, based on that blend if. All right. The only difference is we cannot see what that mask looks like because we can't reference it like we can here. All right. This is based on, we have to just keep it in our head that it's based on that 50% gray. Okay. From that, everything's based off that 50% gray. All right. we either gonna preserve the darks or preserve the highlights, okay? Or we can say we just want to preserve the middle and get rid of the lights and darks, okay? So it's not a mask in the normal sense. All right. And now I'm sure with that I definitely confused you, right?
You talking to me?
I'm talking to all of you. I'm sure yeah. So, okay. All right. Any last minute questions? I know we covered quite a lot with this one. You know.
Hey Doc, this is off the topic. I sent you something earlier this week about something I saw in Photoshop or about a setting for masks and stuff. Did you happen to see that?
You sent it how?
Uh, I forget. But it was probably Facebook. It was one of those things that looks like it's a setting that it's a generative AI setting that when that is set, it looks like it does a better job of selecting a certain kind of mask. And I didn't get a chance to look in it. I didn't know if you'd heard of it or knew about it.
Okay. I don't see anything in Facebook chats.
Okay.
I checked my email earlier today. I didn't see anything in email.
Actually, you know what it is? It might be Facebook. I notice after I send something, it gets rid of my chat history and I have to go through steps. But I remember sending it and you sent a thumbs up back. So this was probably maybe late last week even. What's today?
Oh. All right. Let's see. Okay. Well, that would explain it if it was. Oh,
You put Bob to sleep there for a couple of minutes.
yeah, the Austin James Jackson landscape photography tips and tricks. Is that the one?
I don't know.
Photoshop's June 2025 update brings a brand new setting.
Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah.
The update is about a setting for improved background selection. Oh, okay. Yeah, I took a cursory glance
Okay.
and oh yeah. Okay, I remember. Yeah. This goes into the back end settings, the file was it or no edit preferences, and what was it, performance maybe. Let me see if I can I have the audio off. Oh, image processing. There it is. That's a okay. Yeah. So let me back this up. Okay. Edit. Go down to preferences, image processing, and click on that. And that's going to bring up this dialog box. Okay. In the image processing, where it says select subject and remove background, okay, you have the default. What you're setting is the default, whether it's the device, meaning your local computer, or the cloud, all right, meaning that it sends it to the AI, Adobe AI to take care of it. Okay. It's suggested that you do cloud-based selections because it's going to give you a more refined selection. Okay. Now, how important is that? It's not all that important considering when we were making our selection here, All right. And, we have our, let's see, where's our background? Got to be on a pixel layer. Let's go on a pixel layer. Here we go. Okay. Right up here, we have select subject. Okay. Which is the button we click. All right. But right next to it, we have the drop down. And that drop down says what? Device or cloud. All right. And notice which one is selected for mine. All right. Cloud. All right. So what you're doing on that back end is you're telling Photoshop what you want your default to be. All right. So you don't have to always check this drop down. All right. Once you set the default on the back end in the preferences, it remembers it, and it remembers it on this little drop down right here. Okay. This little drop down just allows you to override that setting that you set in preferences. That's all this does. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense.
Well, when I saw it, it occurred to me that, with all the new changes to these things and I've noticed with software when they come out, Photoshop and other styles, that sometimes the default isn't the optimum, and
Yes.
you go a while and you
Yeah.
go, well, you
Yeah.
change the default, not my fault.
Yeah, here's the other thing you have to watch out for with Adobe is, and I find this not so much with Photoshop, but with Lightroom, is I have my preferences set in Lightroom, and then Lightroom will come out with an update, like a major update, and I'll go ahead and do the update, and I'll check my preferences, and it's made some changes to my preferences. I have to reset everything the way I want it, because it just when it updates everything, it goes to a system default that may be different from what you want. All right. But because it's, it's an automated update, it's going to set it to what the programmers, think it's best. So every time you do an update, just do a cursory look, make sure that your preferences are the way you want them to be. Okay. Obviously this one, they recommend being a cloud-based tool. So when they do the update, they're going to default it to cloud-based. All right. So if you say, no, I don't want to be, slowing my process down by sending it up to the cloud and waiting for it to do its thing. I want it to do it locally. Well, you do the update, guess what? You're going to check that and you're going to find that it's been changed to cloud. So you'll have to go ahead and change it back. Okay. All right. With that, I think enough brain cells have been fried with all the information. Right?
Your work is done here.
My work is done.
Thanks a lot, Doug.
All right. So hopefully you got a little bit of understanding about order of things. And if you see something go wonky, hopefully something will click in and it says, oh, let me check my stack. Okay. All right. Gentlemen, have a good one. Stay safe. We'll
Good
see
night.
you. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.